This is a story all about how we got Tier 2 off the ground. We are here with 3 special guests for this final episode for the fall cohort. Guess who, anyone? Nah, we did that last time. We don't want to keep boring them. So we are here with Danielle Mattina.
Hi, everyone.
Jackie Sackoor.
Hello.
And Shannon Valenti.
Hi.
Anyone want to take a guess what we're going to talk about? For those of you who know them, big surprise, right? But for those of you who do not know them, we are going to do a round of introductions. So I'll start with Danielle Mattina.
Yeah, hi, everyone. Danielle Mattina, the director of ELA K-12, and I am excited to be here with you to talk about our journey to the Tier 2 reading push-in.
Hi, I'm Jackie Sackoor, and I am the K-2 literacy consultant in the district.
I'm Shannon Valenti. I'm grades 3 to 5 literacy consultant in the district. Very excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
Of course. So this has been a big topic, especially for our elementary grades. And I'm going to pass it over to Danielle to kind of tell us a little bit about how they got started. And I hopefully by the end of the episode, we're going to kind of work in that technology piece on how we could kind of merge literacy with technology, because I think sometimes, especially in the lower grades, our K-2 population, sometimes we struggle with the idea of how are we getting technology in their hands to meet our standards and the requirements and all of these initiatives. So by the end of this, that's going to be our focus. But I'll pass it off to Danielle now.
Thanks, Victoria. So we've been on our Science of Reading journey for the last 3 years in Connecticut. You know, it started out with a lot of education, with doing book studies and just learning about what it is and what it isn't. And we've moved along pretty quickly in that time, making a lot of adjustments to our curriculum to meet the needs of our students and really educating our teachers. So last school year, we were in a lot of conversations. Tom Sheehan, who's no longer with us, but he was a big part of this. We were just really starting to get curious about what we could do differently to meet the needs of our learners. We have students that have been in reading instruction and a pull-out reading for years, and they've been kind of lifers in that program. And we know that it works to a certain point, but there was just something that we felt like was missing. I meet every 3 weeks with a bunch of literacy educators all over Long Island, and I just started asking them what they were doing in their districts. And one of my colleagues, the director of ELA in Levittown, shared about this push-in model that they were doing. And I got curious. I started talking to Tom about it. I mentioned it to Jackie and Shannon, and we actually went there to visit their school district. And an interesting part about that story was we got there that day and we walked into the main office and they had a scheduling confusion and they thought that we were there for a social studies visit. Mm-hmm. So we knew they weren't putting on a show. That's the best part about that, because the teachers were not ready. There was another group of educators from another district there to see the social studies. So last minute, Michelle, the director, ran down the hallway, found a couple of teachers that were willing to let us in their room. Luckily, we had Tom with us, who's a celebrity, so to speak, and they were really excited that the survivor winner was there and wanted to take some selfies with him. The staff kind of was like losing their mind over him. I was like, thank God he's a celebrity, because they might not have let me in. So that really worked out. And the truth is, we went in and it was obvious that they'd been doing it for a long time and that it was authentic because they weren't putting on a show. Students were comfortable in their groups. And what we saw that day was students working. One station of students were independently working on a reading task. Another group were with the teacher on the carpet, kind of doing a reteach of a foundations lesson. And other students were with either a TA or a reading teacher doing small group instruction. And as we walked down the hallway, we really saw that in every single classroom. So we came back, we brainstormed, and Tom was willing to try it at Sycamore, and Jackie and Shannon were willing to pilot it there with 2 of our first grade teachers. So I'm going to let them talk a little bit about their experience in that first round of a pilot.
Yeah, doing the pilot was a good experience for us because it got us to work out the kinks of the schedule and how we wanted to do it. But it's funny when we went from the pilot to actually implementing this year. There's some changes even from when we piloted it, because even just the amount of work it takes to move between classes in a quick amount of time is different than when we only had one. But it was a great experience. And what we found when we worked with the kids in the small group is that they made such great progress. Didn't you see that as well in your group?
Yes, 100%. It was really eye-opening to be able to work with a small group and then also have them get to move around to another teacher within that 40 minutes. So they're not sitting with the same teacher for so long, losing that attention span. They were able to see multiple teachers, focus in on what they need, and we saw such great progress.
And the nice part was I found that the teachers appreciated having someone else to discuss their reading with a colleague of their students reading with a colleague. So that way they're like, yes, I do see that, or oh, that's interesting. I'll have to notice that next time. But it was affirming in a way.
Yeah, and I think the best part too is that the way the model works is we teach for 4 days, and then the 5th day is a planning day. So we're able to have that time with teachers to sit down and talk about students, talk about their progress, who's moving faster than others. And we have the opportunity to move kids around in groups quickly without waiting for that IST meeting or those 10 weeks to end. We're able to just switch those kids out based on what they need at that time, week by week.
And it's also more cohesive than so before I had this role, I was a reading teacher that was doing the pullout. And it always felt like what I was doing was so disconnected from the classroom. And now it feels more connected together because I'm in the room seeing more kids, but also that we can have these conversations of like how to bridge it and having that time.
And another really great thing that the teachers have been saying is it really holds them accountable. Like, this is the time. Like, they see us walk through the door and they're like, okay, we have to do our small groups right now. Here she is. And the kids know what to do. It's like a signal, and it becomes so routine. And just being able to be in the same room, we see each other, we see what we're doing, and we have those conversations with the teachers, and it's very transparent, no judgment. It's just very relaxed.
Yeah. So there's essentially about 3 to 4 groups going on at the same time.
Yeah, it depends on the room and depends on the grade. Like kindergarten was a little different than first and second, and the amount of kids.
It depends on the building and the class size. So some classes are a little bit smaller, so they may have 3 groups going, whereas our larger classes may have more students and there's 5 groups happening.
And so how often are they rotating?
Every 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Kindergarten's doing 15 minutes because 20 minutes is a little long for them, so they rotate. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, and how we got here, it wasn't easy. You know, like we were really fortunate to have Jackie and Shannon pilot it last year with Nicole Tinchert and Katie Steinley at Sackoor. But then we said, what do we do now? They loved it. And one thing that we did was we had Nicole and Katie present to the staff. So I knew Sycamore was all in last year, but then I knew the impact could be great. So I wanted to try to get more people on board. But with anything, it has to gain traction on its own. So I presented to the elementary principals, and many of them were interested. And many of their staff were interested. So we invited them to come visit Sycamore. And that's how we got a few more buildings on board. And then by the start of the school year, all 7 buildings were willing to try it. So, I mean, I'm pretty excited to say that in all 7 buildings in K-2, this is happening every day. And it wasn't without growing pains. You know, there's a little fear in something new and trying something. And just being able to figure out how to manage a new schedule for people. But I've been observing classrooms the last 2 weeks. They've invited me in, and I am so proud of what I'm seeing. I mean, our kids are, first of all, growing so quickly, but the teachers, every conversation I have, they are so excited about what their students are doing and how well this is going. I really have to give, a shout out to all of them for really taking this leap, because without them, this wouldn't be possible.
I feel like there's a layer, you have to really be vulnerable in this position because you're on display. Someone's watching you. You're teaching alongside someone. You have to be able to admit when something's not working. You have to change it. You have to have those hard conversations. So I think it's also just teaching us about life and just how to be a teacher, and that we're not always stagnant. There's room to grow.
I think one of the great pieces of this is I had the opportunity to go into an idle hour classroom recently and watch how this all came to life. So I've heard so much about it that I came in and saw how the teacher literally said, okay, we're going into our groups. These are your groups. Told them where they should go. All the kids went to their groups, and it was seamless, right? And of course, the first couple times that you do this, maybe it won't be just like with anything else, but it was really seamless. and I saw how the lesson was kind of like more tailored to those group of students, right? And I think from like maybe a student's perspective, you're not as hesitant to maybe talk with that group teacher or with the, their friends in class because it's in such a smaller group. I noticed a couple of kids were able to, just look over real quick and whisper an answer or something to someone else. And in a smaller group setting, that's okay. Whereas in a larger group setting, if it's a full class lesson, you're more reluctant to do that.
And also from the perspective as a, a reading teacher, I would have kids when I would pull them out say, well, I have to go to you because I'm not great at reading. And, they'd be upset by that. And now because we're just pushing in and I see a variety of kids, it's not right. That conversation anymore. And they feel, they're taking the risks and I'm showing them their growth and it's been great. So I do like that. I like that stigma of me being in the room is not like, oh, I stink at reading.
I think it's a confidence boost too. Like I didn't honestly know which group was struggling and which group, was flourishing, just from that one visit. Another thing that I wanted to mention was that independent group, right? So we had the teachers guide the lessons in 3 groups in this particular class. And then we had an independent station. So what typically is that independent station?
So we do a variety of different things. A lot of teachers utilize iReady for their pathway, so the students are working along their path. We also have a lot of apps on ClassLink that they use, one being Myon, so they're reading books on Myon. And then we recently tried Nearpod. I know at Idle Hour, where I am doing the push-in model, we've been experimenting with our new science of reading library that Nearpod has available. And we're trying it out to see if it works. And students are really liking it. Lessons seem to be about 20 minutes. So we're excited to talk about this and hopefully have some other schools maybe try it out.
Some are using Learning A to Z. We have different books that they could read on there. And even Typing Club is something they could do as an independent station. And then sometimes it's a traditional center where the kids are playing some type of reading game. They're doing a roll and read where they're practicing. In kindergarten, they're coloring and doing things that, they can do independently. And it's really giving them that time to do that.
Yeah, and some of the more traditional ones, speaking of centers, is handwriting.
Yeah.
We're trying to get that automaticity of handwriting is so important because if you're like still thinking of letter formation, how are you writing a story effectively? So trying to build that automaticity and with different handwriting stations has been great. And that piggies typing, getting that automaticity of typing for when they have to be in 3rd, 4th, 5th, and up and have to type. And then doing sight words. Your class, Shannon.
Yes.
Talk about that. The sight words.
The TA in the classroom I'm working in, her station is a sight word station where she's dictating, she's teaching them how to spell. I'm actually introducing her to a routine to maybe help it stick a little bit more. Her word routine that we're going to try to, she actually came to me today and she's like, we're just not getting them all of the time. And I was like, it's okay, let's try this. So it's great that we're all able to just collaborate and she can just, we can have that quick conversation to make that little change and then hopefully she'll see some progress. But she's doing a lot of dictation and building her sight words. So if the students aren't constantly exposed to all the high frequency words, up to grade 2.
Also, fluency is another great station because, that bridge to comprehension is fluency.
Yeah.
And I also want to just give a shout out to Cindy Campanella over at Cherokee because they were working on fluency with one of the students and he was very disfluent. And she said that they used an app where the kid recorded himself and then listened back and they could delete out the ones he didn't like. And when he found that he spoke the most natural, he kept that and sent it to the teacher. And I believe it was Catherine Carpenter's class. And they said that the fluency in this child has increased dramatically using that. So
I feel like fluency is something that we don't teach explicitly. That is something that teachers are now just realizing. We need to go back to that. We used to, I feel like, everything's kind of full circle. And it's so important for that bridge to comprehension because if you're reading just fluently, you're not going to get that story 100% of what you could be getting if you were reading as a fluent skilled reader.
Well, a common complaint I hear all the time when I work with teachers is that there just aren't enough hours in the day. And as I listen to both of you talk, it sounds like you can do so many different things within that block. And I think that's nice because you can rotate through that and you can address all of those like sort of underlying skills that lead to that reading mastery, right? So it almost feels like they're getting some time back, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and we're using our time more, wisely. We're
Right,
being
exactly,
intentional.
more efficiently.
We're being intentional in our teaching. We've never had so much data before in
Yeah.
this district, and user-friendly data where we are able to look at something and rule things out or rule things in, and then give that direct, explicit instruction on what they need to see the growth. And the teachers that are doing this are seeing growth.
When we were just at the Lights conference, we went to a workshop and it talked about some of the Google tools that they have. And there's a new one called Read Along. It's a Google Workspace. I know I asked Kevin to look into it for us. So that's something we're going to explore next to see how we can build that in. But basically it has like a gentle, loving AI chatbot that is supportive and encouraging to the students as they're reading. So it's kind of like what Cindy Campanella was doing. The students can record themselves reading and it gives them feedback. So that's coming soon. We're gonna work on that.
Yeah, AI. There's also that project Read AI we've been playing around with. So
Yeah.
there's more to come with
Yeah.
different apps and AI use.
I do want to say one thing about our ENL students. So they're a big part of this as well. And our ENL teachers are part of this model. And what's really great about that is, our students that are learning English for the first time, they often see themselves as just those students. They're often in a group just with their other ENL peers, or they're being pulled out. And in this model, they're being mixed with students that aren't English language learners that may just have the same struggle as them with fluency or letters and sounds. So they can see that their peers are, working alongside them and really building that confidence and that supportive classroom environment. So I really appreciate the ENL teachers, stepping out and doing that with us as well.
So one thing that the IT department has done before is something called IT hour. And as you talk about the instructional side and what's going on in the classrooms, sometimes, the IT department does so much forefront, but there's also the back end component. I'm going to have Kevin talk a little bit about IT hour,
Sure.
and you'll definitely see some correlations to what's actually happening in the classroom.
Yeah, sure. So in the past, we've held these IT hours where we actually just call upon like the higher level engineers to kind of steer a focal point for our technicians that are out in the building supporting the teachers and the students. One of the times I know like some of the topics are the basics of like imaging a computer. Now it's like one of the most, if some of our techs are listening to this, I don't mean this insulting, but it's one of the most basic things that we do in introducing anybody new to our staff of how to image a computer. But there's multiple ways of doing that. So we kind of came up with this idea a few years ago of just standardizing and going through the procedures, setting up simulated situations out in the classroom of what a technician could potentially experience when they're out in the field, and how to kind of guide their way through that situation, and setting up kind of just workstations to go through and seeing where they're at that point, what their perspective is on how they can approach it. We kind of get together. Hey, have you tried this? Have you tried that? Yeah.
There's so many different scenarios that can happen no matter what device they're using, what buildings that they're in. So I think having the IT hour with the tech staff kind of brings everyone on the same page.
Right.
And if a tech, maybe has a different perspective to something, that can open up doors for more questions for the other techs. There's also different situations that happen in different buildings. So
Sure.
one tech might have seen something that another tech had not seen. So it kind of brings them all together for different situations. I remember being in that room that was my office at one point, and they were doing IT hour, and I just like look over. I had like this divider, and I'm like, what are they doing? And there's like all these workstations, and they're working through like whatever scenario that was kind of lost at them. It was really cool to see because you got to see them, like frequently all this work is done when we're not in the classrooms, right? So like if they're imaging a computer, they're not doing it while the instructional staff is there, right? So it was kind of cool to see like them at work and going through the different scenarios that may come up.
Right. And I think the biggest thing too for us is that like everybody within our department, and the same thing for anybody, is that like everybody comes from different avenues of life and experience and all that other stuff. So it was kind of more of like hearing multiple perspectives, how their thought process is in approaching the situation, and kind of seeing that like everybody at the end of the day has the same goal and the end result, but it's maybe a different approach to it. Yeah, so
What's really cool is that you like the engineers, and so your twos basically, right? You were there, Matt was there, Scott as our admin
right.
was there to also be there for the technicians. So if they did have a question or a situation that came up, you guys were kind of guiding them, okay, so and asking them the question so that they can get to the answer.
Sure.
I think that correlates extremely with like what's going on with this tier 2 push-in, because you have your different groups and it's a safe setting. Right. So, and you have those teachers guiding these students to the, teaching them the skills that maybe they're struggling with a little bit.
Right. Yeah. There's no judging. There's no. It's like, hey, what was your thought going into this? Like, hey, what did you see that maybe I didn't see?
We just put our magical tickets in and you fix our problem.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because I don't know
and it's funny that that we're talking about this because we kind of strayed away from the path for a little bit of time doing that. But funny enough that we're bringing this up is that I brought this back up again this morning, and that we're like going to probably start to build that up again, start to do that for the team, because there are some new members of the team that didn't get to experience that, but also just to keep the collaborative effort and communication open amongst all of us. So.
I feel like we could do, I feel like we could do that with the teachers, like get the reading teachers and TAs together and do like a similar with the adults, like a reading hour with the adults.
So there is actually
like different things you come across.
Like this kid struggling, how to be
Reading
fixed.
Rachel on Instagram will give like a student's profile, and she'll say like this student's ORF is at this, their decoding's this. What would you do as an intervention? And then like people like write in like, oh, I would do this and I would do
What
that.
was it? So, Reading Rachel?
Yes.
Best Instagram name ever.
I think we're gonna have to pull some of Miss Rachel's ideas and try this.
Like Miss Rachel, I know is the one my son used
Right.
to watch with the overalls and
Miss Rachel.
this is a playground. It's a playground. I'm like, oh boy.
Also have been doing through the district also is meeting with teachers and looking at individual student data and saying, what is the problem? What is the underlying problem? What are they struggling with? And how can we fill those deficits? What can we plan? What can we implement? Try it, see if that works. So it's a great collaboration.
I love that you guys have that time at the end of the week to work with the teacher and talk about the strategy and what you guys are going to hit upon. And, and I think all teachers have an element of isolation at some point. You're just in your room doing your thing. And it's so much better when you get to collaborate with people. You share ideas and you come up with other things on your own. So I think that's awesome that they have that time at the elementary level to do that.
I think the key is, and I always say this, like programs don't teach kids. Teachers teach students. There's no program out there that's going to do it. As educators, we have to be diagnosticians. We have to be able to look at a student and what they're struggling with and figure out how to help them. And that's what having Jackie and Shannon to go around and help coach teachers through that process. It's overwhelming as a teacher. You have 20-something kids in front of you, and to have the time to really dive into that is not easy. But if you have a partner to kind of just talk it through, it's a really nice process.
Yeah.
And I think also the fact that we have shifted over to the science of reading has really helped this process along as well, because now we're not just like talking about a level or talking about kids. We look at our iReady data and then we go deeper. We say, okay, this kid didn't do well on iReady. Let's give them a phonics screener. Let's rule out that phonics or phonemic awareness isn't the issue. And now we have a pathway of how to help them. So that's also been another bonus to all of this.
I have maybe a difficult task, I don't know, but for like our secondary teachers that might be listening who don't deal necessarily with reading instruction, how do you sum up what science of reading is and where we're coming from?
So the science of reading is a vast body of research that they have figured out that we all read the same way. We've all learned to read the same way. Some kids just naturally will pick it up without explicit instruction, but most people, 60% of us, need some kind of explicit instruction in phonics and teaching to read. And what the problem is that all comprehension is so big that any deficit in another area will look like a comprehension deficit. So we have to like peel back the onion to figure out where the deficit is. And we're trying really hard in the elementary level to like make sure we like pour a good foundation on our house of phonics and phonemic awareness. So that way we don't have those huge errors. But yeah,
we're going to start extending it up to the middle school. Jackie and Shannon are going to work with me to put together a professional learning opportunity for our middle school teachers on the literacy briefs. So NICED and the Department of Education are talking about the science of reading on a pre-K to 12th grade level and what that looks like at every level. So we've dived into it at the elementary level. So next we're going to talk about it at middle school, what it looks like, what we're already doing, because a lot of what we're already doing aligns to what the science of reading is, right? It's really just good, impactful reading instruction. But we'll look at that and say, okay, maybe what is lacking? What could we add that we're doing, maybe in another place?
I like the analogy of the onion, right?
Yeah.
Peeling back and see what
What it is there.
Yeah.
Right. And if there's things that are like at the elementary level, we had our curriculum committee and we got together and we said, this is what we're doing, but this is what we're missing. And how do we add what we're missing? And we came together and we piloted in some programs and strategies. So the next step is to start to bring that up a little bit.
and then the other piece was having hard conversations of saying like, well, we can't just keep adding.
Yeah,
Like,
we
we
can
have to
take
take
away.
away things that don't serve a great purpose anymore.
Yeah, I think the biggest shift in the upper grades for me was noticing how giving random passages with questions are really just tests, right? We're just testing, we're assessing our students on those passages. I feel like we need to shift more to teaching, like only teaching what they need. So morphology, vocabulary, those big domains that affect comprehension, not individual passages or things in isolation.
Right.
No
And
more
that's more of a
strategy over-
mindset shift as
It
well.
is.
too.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of shifting.
And really what
It's very
impact-
complex.
Yeah.
But even the Reading League, I went to the conference not too long ago. They came out at that conference with an adolescent literacy guide for secondary teachers as a way to help to learn more about the science of reading on that level.
And what really is the truth is every educator in this entire district is a teacher of literacy.
No matter the content.
Doesn't matter the content. We are reading, writing, listening, speaking in science and phys ed, following the rules of a game in music, right? We're doing that in all of our classes. So evening broadening out to the content area teachers and talking about some strategies that they could use in their classrooms. Great to help.
And I think one of the big things the state really puts out is the big six.
Yeah.
And how oral language was added, because oral language really is the foundation of literacy.
Mhm.
And then hitting all of the other ones, phonics, fluency, comprehension, and vocabulary. Those are our focuses that lead to skills reading. So just having that
Even
understanding.
need to like look at it. I
No.
know, right? She just pulled that right out.
Pulled that right
Yes.
out. She gotta just count her fingers.
I just had to make sure I had all six.
Yeah.
She
I
did
didn't have to touch my fingers.
I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't put in a little plug here about Secret Stories. I mean, Secret Stories has really transformed what our little learners are doing. I mean, it is unreal. And I'd love for Victoria to talk about her son Dante at home with the Secret Stories.
So, all of you, the elementary interventionists, came to me and mentioned secret stories. I didn't know what they were really talking about. They said they showed me this video, and I just happened to come home, and I'm like, let me see what Dante can do. So I go to my son and I put it on for him, and he's literally automatically glued. And he listens to the video, goes through all of it, and I actually took a video of him and shared it with Danielle, and he now just asks for it like once a day, and this is going on like about a year now.
What was he?
The better
Just,
alphabet.
it was the better alphabet.
Better
song.
alphabet song.
Was he not even 3 yet?
No, he wasn't 3 yet.
Yeah.
Right.
So he was learning the letters and then the
Sounds.
sounds that the letters make before he was even 3 years old. Because think about it, we all learn through song. We could recite song lyrics. It's catchy and kids learn it. And we brought that in. Our kindergarten students, I was in the library the other day observing a kindergarten class. It was actually like the 18th day of school. And because we're delivering the secret stories to every classroom from basically the second day of school, the kindergartners are seeing like challenging rules for the English language. And one of the kids held up his book that he just took out and he saw like ION and he was like, oh, I know that. And then he read the word and it's like ION in kindergarten? They're not able. They would have never been able to do that in kindergarten without these stories.
And the best part is the kindergartner spelling it right.
Yeah.
Going, A. Mrs. Sackoor, is it A-Y? Like knowing that A sound from the story, they're doing the little hand signals.
You can't see that. I can't. The Fonzie hands over here.
Fonzie hands are happening. It's really been amazing.
And there is a link on ClassLink, right? To
Yes.
the book. It goes to Book Creator, and it's all the elementary interventionists kind of created their own videos to all the secret stories and the little pieces that go along with it. And so you can actually view that on ClassLink if you are. It's just for elementary.
I think K to 5, if you're a K to 5 teacher
yeah.
for elementary, you can click on the secret stories there. And also our elementary literacy shared drive is also on ClassLink now. So you can access that there and it has all of the resources for everything we're talking about. Our K to 2 small group resources, the 3 to 5 resources.
There's data collection for
Yeah.
on there.
We've really taken it all digital so that everybody has access to all the same things across the district.
Right. And if it's okay with you guys, I might share that Book Creator link just with this cohort, just so they can see
Please.
what we're
Yes.
talking about.
You could open it up to the whole district. I
yeah.
mean, the truth is, anyone could learn from the secret stories. I was talking to a middle school teacher the other day who's an ENL teacher, and she has students that are struggling. And I was like, I think you should just try it with them. And I showed it to her, and she's like, I am. Like, even a middle school kid can, enjoy a good story to learn something. So,
I mean, I'll be honest, there are things in the English language that I just do, and I don't know. And I was looking at secret stories, and I was like, oh, it like puts all the pieces together. It's pretty funny.
we just learn, some of us just learn and don't know how we know how to do it.
Yeah.
Especially when you're writing things and grammar rules and stuff
Yes.
like that.
I did not learn the phonics rules.
Me
Getting
either.
a master's degree in literacy, I had to go through my Wilson training.
Wow.
To learn all of it. But if you're not being Wilson trained, there is a great book called The Logic of English that goes through a lot of these grammar phonics rules. That's really easy to understand. The book is not like dense. It's an easy, quick read. But if you wanted to learn some of these rules, then I would recommend that one.
Yeah,
That's a good podcast book recommendation.
Yeah. And I mean, I also got my master's degree in literacy and it was whole language. It was balanced literacy. And I spent all that time. And honestly, I did my science of reading micro-credential through the SUNY New Calls that's been kind of circulating. And it really opened my eyes to a lot of the things that.
Yeah, and that's
just had
still
to
up.
learn.
Yeah, it's still available.
Is it $50 still?
I don't know, but it's still available for teachers.
Yeah, you can get your science of reading micro-credential online through SUNY New Calls.
It's worth it.
Yeah, you don't have any coupon codes here, right?
I don't-
Secret promo codes.
We get you can get CTLE hours. I have a couple of teachers that reached out to me and they got CTLE hours for completing their micro credential or PDP hours. So
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to thank all of you for being here.
yeah.
I think this was an amazing episode. You have something?
I am
to
going to
add?
interrupt for 1 minute.
Well done.
It is still $50.
It is still
Yes, you can pick it up for $50.
I saw the eyebrows raised. I'm like, wait, Kristen has something. To...
New balls. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's all.
Kristen's gonna take it.
Right now.
No, but really, thank you for being here. I know that our elementary might have kind of already know some of this, but even though I've been talking with you about this since the beginning of the year, there's some things that I didn't even know. So we can always pick up something that we don't know. We do have some high school listeners here. We have ENL teachers and all of that. So I think it's going to benefit everyone.
Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We're here to help. Thank you for
being here.
having us.
Thank you.
Yeah.